Hello and welcome. This video is going to be about the first 21 figures, all the figures that came out during the Star Wars era. So these all premiered when Star Wars was the only movie that was out, and all the card backs only say Star Wars on them. And a total of 21 figures were released, and we're going to take a look at all of them right now. Here is one of the final designs of the card backs before Empire Strikes Back came out. And there you can see collect all 21. And so we're going to get a little bit closer look at these. As you can see, I have two of each. If you've seen my videos before, you know I love variants. So I just pulled two interesting variants of each to show you. And we're going to go over those next. Okay, so we'll start with Luke Skywalker. You can see some clear differences in the hair color. Yellow was supposed to be the color that they were going to be, but sometimes the factories just screwed up and gave them brown hair. The yellow hair one in this case is from Universal Manufacturers, made in Taiwan. And if you've ever seen any of my Luke videos, you know there's a whole bunch of different variants from each factory. If you haven't, you can go through some of my videos, and I have a few different ones for Luke Skywalker here from all the different factories it was made in. This one was made by the Unitoy factory in Hong Kong. And Unitoy, yeah, apparently they just made a mistake every once in a while, and the factory made some with brown hair. So that's Luke Skywalker. And we'll slide over. There's Princess Leia. The one with the cape was a US release. This one was actually made in Brazil for the Brazilian market by a company called Glasslight. And they actually made the figures around 1988 when nobody else was making them anymore, but they are licensed from Kenner. And you can see totally different plastics used. And you can see there's no country of origin, there's just a date stamp. Whereas this one, let me get it in position for you. This one just says GMFGI, date, and then Hong Kong. So the one with the cape here is was made for the US market, and this one's in played with condition, but to get them near mint with all their accessories, it's an expensive figure to get. So I got a pretty good deal on that one, but I'm a sucker for the figures from other countries. And we'll move on to Han Solo next. And next we have Han Solo. And you can see right away that there's a pretty big difference in the head sculpts on these. The smaller head Han, which is on the left of the screen, that was the first one made. And right away Kenner didn't like it. It was too small, so they stopped making that one, started making the large head Han, which is on the right of the screen. And both of them came out on Star Wars 12 back cards, but the small head Han, they made it first, and they didn't make a lot of them. And then of the small head Han, most of them have black plastic for the pants, but a few of them have white plastic with black paint. As you can see, there's some paint loss on the toes, so that's white plastic underneath black paint. Most of them were like this one, where it's just black plastic. This Han is from Brazil, just like the Princess Leia, by Glasslight, the company that had the license to produce the figures for Brazil. And no country of origin stamp, just a date stamp. But there you have a US release small head Han and an Argentina release big head Han. And we'll slide over here to Chewbacca next. And there he is. And the one on the left of your screen is a Kenner for the US market. The one on the right of the screen is Lily Ledy from Mexico. And one of the differences you see with Lily Ledy is they'll have a little bit smaller eyes. That one's got really bright eyes, and the mouths are painted a little bit differently too. Lily Ledy also might be kind of hard to tell here, but they have darker plastic for the Ledy figures as well. And I'll get a shot of the country of origin stamps. So there's for the US one, and then Lily Ledy doesn't have a country of origin, just a date stamp. So that's Han Solo and Chewbacca. Next we'll move on to R2. And here's R2-D2. These two are different variants. The one, it's in pretty good condition. Here on the left is Kenner US release, a little bit darker blue paint on the dome. The one on the right is PAC, which was made for the Spanish market. At this point, PAC was importing the parts from the Kenner factories in Asia and assembling and painting the figures themselves. Maybe applying the sticker themselves too, I'm not sure. But let's turn these around and show you the back. So the one on the right was made for the Spanish market in Spain, the one on the left for the US market. And the ones for the US market have different shades of blue for the head paint, for the dome and that. There's so many different variants, even the paint on the body, the stickers have a little bit different variants. So that's R2-D2, and then we're going to move down to Jawa. And with Jawa, I took the capes off. You can see them sitting there. Even with the capes, some of them, the robes, some of them have different colored stitching in that. So there are variants based on, even the capes, based on what factory they were made in. I want to focus a little more on the figures. And the one on the left, you can see, is made with a darker plastic, totally different than the one on the right. So the one on the left was made by the Unitoy factory in Hong Kong, and it was made for the US market. Both of these were. The one on the right was made by the Cater factory in their China facility. So the Cater China doesn't have a country of origin stamp, it just has a date stamp right there. And you can see little remnants underneath the date stamp where there used to be letters in the mold. So that was a mold that Cater sent to their China factory. This is Unitoy. So totally different plastic. Eyes are painted differently too. And that just gives you an idea of some of the different Jawa variants. And Jawas were released also by Lily Ledy in Mexico. I believe PAC made some Jawas, as did Toys for Australia. Next, we'll look at the Tusken Raider Sand People. And these were, both of these figures are made for the US market. There are some that were made by PAC and Lily Ledy. These are both American. And the biggest difference in here, if you look at the cheek tubes, which are here and here, the one on the right has them hollowed out. The one on the left has them rounded. Nearly all of them are rounded like the one on the left, but the one on the right here only came out on Return of the Jedi cards. So this one would be an example of one that came out later. And this is actually from my childhood too. But those hollow cheek tubes are pretty rare. It only came out on some Return of the Jedi cards, and that's it. So most of them have the rounded cheek tubes like that one. But these are both Tusken Raiders. And you can also see a difference in the paint on the bandolier, on the belt and that here. How it's much darker on this one. This one, the mouthpieces are darker. Colors of their gaffy sticks are a little bit different. So pretty interesting variants on that one. The hollow cheek tubes is what they call this guy. And that one sells for a premium nowadays. Probably, I don't know, I'll probably get $200-300 for that one. So next, we'll look at, go over here to C-3PO. And these are both, doesn't look like they're the same figure, but they are. The color differences there. Most of the Kenner ones are more of a silver color. Kenner did make some gold looking ones too. But the one on the right is PAC. And that's another one that was assembled and painted in Spain for the Spanish market. They imported the parts. And I've done some videos on this guy too, but one of the things with when PAC made figures, when they put them together, they didn't have very good sonic welding machines or whatever, so they didn't do a good job. You can see how his shoulder's separated there, the torso is. And then bring it up. You can see melt marks. See how his foot is melted? That happened at the factory. There's a lot of that on this figure, which I love. But these were put together through something called sonic welding, and it used vibrations and created a lot of heat. A good machine would protect the figure from the damage from the heat, but the ones Pac had didn't do a good job, so they ended up with melt marks on a lot of the figures. So that's US Kenner and then Pac for Spain. Okay, next is the Death Squad Commander, or so he was called during the Star Wars era when he first came out. They eventually changed his name to Star Destroyer Commander, but in the early days it was Death Squad Commander. And we have a US Kenner release here. And then this one is a Lily Ledy made in Mexico for the Mexican market. You can see it's got the blurred out country of origin stamp. So he's interesting though, because he did have two different names. The next one we'll go over is Obi-Wan. And here again, we have a Kenner US release and a Mexico. The gray hair one is from Mexico. The white hair is what they were when they first came out. A little bit later on, the factory started making them with the gray hair. Again, I think they just didn't feel like it mattered. One of the Kenner people said that when he was asked why, like, the Luke Skywalker had brown hair, he said he thought that the factory made a mistake. So that's probably what happened with the gray hair Ben too. They probably just didn't think it mattered. But you have US Kenner with the white hair, and then Lily Ledy has the gray hair. All right, up next we have Stormtrooper. The one on the left is Smile Factory, no country of origin. That was made for the US market. So there's no country of origin on there. The one on the right is Lily Ledy from Mexico. No country of origin on here either. That was made in Mexico. You can see right off the bat the differences in the face paint on the mask, on the helmet. The Lily Ledy with a much wider mouth, bolder paint, bigger paint. So pretty big differences with those. Darth Vader, we'll look at him next. And these two examples, one of these is from the US market. The one on the right is made in Taiwan, and you can get a good look at how different the face sculpts. The left cheek on this one is really big and bold. This one is not. And I've done videos on these Darth Vaders too, but those are some of the differences with Vader. There's a lot of different variants for him too. But if you want, you should check out my Darth Vader video, and I go over all the differences with these. And next we'll move on to some of the Cantina creatures. And next is Greedo. And all of the Cantina figures for the US market were all made in the Smile Factory in Hong Kong. And that's the same with these two. So PBP also made some for the Spanish market. I don't have one of those right now. You can just see a difference in the eyes, the way the eyes were painted, and actually maybe hard to tell there, but the green paint has a little bit different shades of green. But take a look at, there's the country of origin stamp. And next, Walrus Man. And these are from two different countries. The one here on the left was made for the US market in Hong Kong by Smile. There's the COO. The one on the right was made in Spain by PVP for the Spanish market. Totally different plastic. It's a very hard plastic compared to the other one. The blue arms and legs, you can see, are different colors. The green paint on the head and hands is totally different colors. So pretty interesting variants there. So that's Greedo and Walrus Man. And here's the Power Droid. And these were all made in the Cater factory. And not a whole lot of, there are some variants with him with this red sticker. You can see it's shaped a little bit differently. This one a little bit wider at the top, and that one's a little bit more narrow with different shades of orange. And his country of origin stamp is on the inside of the leg there. But they were all made in the Cater factory. And he was one that I believe he was in the background of the Jawa sandcrawler. But that's the Power Droid. And next we have R5-D4. The one on the right of the screen is from my childhood, the one that with the damaged sticker. And it's hard to tell on the camera, but that one is from, it says 1977. This one says 1978. So the ones that say 1977, they were using the old R2-D2 mold, and they finally gave him his own mold later. So that's R5-D4. There are other variants of him. One of the best ones is you see that little white box right there. One of the factories had that sticker with that painted red, and those sell for premium too. And then there's differences in the colors of the orange paint on the dome. So that's R5-D4. And next we'll look at Hammerhead. I have examples from two different countries here. The one on the left, where his eyes are looking to his left, that one was made by Kenner in the Smile factory for the US market. And all of them are supposed to have their eyes with his eyes facing his left. The one on the right is PBP, made in Spain, and you can see the eyes face the opposite direction. Different color plastics, and I don't know how well you can see the country of origin. There you go, COO. And on the PBP, it's just a scar there where it would have said Hong Kong. So that's a pretty cool variant. Whoop. Dance around for you a little bit. And then over here we have Death Star Droid, which I think they might have shown him walking through the Death Star too. I remember also seeing him in the Sandcrawler in the movie. These are both Kenner releases, and I always thought he was one of the cooler figures. POC makes one. I think PBP might make one, but these were both made by Kenner for the US release. And this is Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot. This one was made in Hong Kong, so you can see there. And this one was made in China by the Cater factory. So the mold for this one, you can see how China is on a raised bar there. So Cater would have sent a mold to their China factory, and the mold would have said Hong Kong. So that factory would have carved out the Hong Kong and written China in there. So when they injected plastic into the mold, the plastic filled in that gap and created the raised bar on the figure. A little bit of differences, nothing major with the paint on the helmet. One on the left is a little bit more bold and a little bit more well done. And then the one on the right, you can see a little bit wider, sloppier paint job there than on this one. A little bit different color in the orange on the chest pad too, but there are other variants of this figure out there. I only have these two and one other. I think neither one of these are from my childhood, but I still have the one from when I was a kid too. So that's Luke Skywalker, X-Wing pilot. And now for, in my opinion, the most interesting figure that Kenner ever made. And in this case, I'm going to call it a variant, but we're looking at Snaggletooth. And clearly a big difference here. The short red one is what he was supposed to look like. The tall blue one was made only for the Sears exclusive Cantina set, which came with him, Hammerhead, Greedo, and Walrus Man. Now, with the blue Snaggletooth, what happened is Kenner had to make the figures for the Sears exclusive, and all they had was a picture of the character's head. So they made up the body, and they gave him the disco boots and the blue jumpsuit, and then later on they learned he was supposed to be short and in a red suit. So the tall blue one never made it to card backs. It was never released in stores. You had to order it through the Sears catalog, and it never came out in any other way. The red Snaggletooth is the one that ended up making it to the shelves in the stores. With this one, you see his left boot, nice and smooth. There are some that have a dimple on the big toe. I have some of those too. But that's Snaggletooth. Now, I personally kind of consider them two different figures, but you could also consider blue Snaggletooth a variant from the red Snaggletooth if you want. So I included him. He came out in 1978. Both of them did. And Blue Snag is probably my favorite Star Wars figure out there because he's the one that they probably made the least of as far as a figure as a whole. They just didn't make very many of them, and I think he looks cool too. So that's Snaggletooth. Red Snaggletooth and blue Snaggletooth. And then we have Boba Fett. Boba kind of came out all on his own. The other figures had already been out, and kind of released one more new figure that premiered on a Star Wars card back, and that was Boba Fett. As many of you may know, he was originally a mail order. You had to send in some proof of purchase seals and into the mail, and then you'd get Boba Fett in the mail, which I did when I was a kid, and I still have it. I don't have the mailer box or any of that came with it, but I do have the figure still. And of course, we all know the story. The little rocket was supposed to fire off, but for safety reasons, they decided not to. Somebody just lost their gun. So what we're looking at here with these two figures is this one on your left is a US kind of release. This one is PBP made in Spain for the Spanish market. You can clearly see the difference. PBP almost has a gray look to it. Belt color, the the chest, everything about it's different. And this is a big C copyright Boba Fett, and when we talk about that, the copyright and date stamp there are completely different on this than they are the other Hong Kong Boba Fetts. If you look through my older videos, you'll find videos showing the difference between the big C Boba Fett and the regular ones. And then the PBP just has a scar there where the country of origin used to be. So big copyright C Boba Fett made in Hong Kong in the Cater factory for the US market. And then the one on the right is PBP made in Spain for the Spanish market. All right, and thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You learned a few things. If you like it, please go ahead and hit subscribe, and you can check out some of my other videos. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.